Startups, you see them probably everywhere, you see them growing, or you see them failing. And the question is, why do they fail and how can you do it better? We have an expert with us here today who walked the talk and can tell us how to do it right. Hello and welcome, Logan Yonavjak.
Thank you so much, Niels. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much for being here. And of course, I will get straight into the interview as I always do. I mean, lots of people love to comment on startups. And of course, the first question I have to ask is, what qualifies you to be an expert on the matter?
Great question. So I would say it's a great combination of me and my co-founder, Benji Whitehurst. So I come from the investing world. I've spent most of my time in impact investing, the last 20 years, looking to deploy capital into things that matter for people, planet, and profit. And so a lot of my work has been in the early stage investing space. I've worked in private equity,
Hmm.
and I've personally just seen a lot of team dynamics and leadership failures that prevented a lot of the outcomes that I was excited about seeing in society. And so that just kind of got the wheels turning over the years, made a lot of observations, and have had personally a longstanding interest in Jungian analysis, psychology, from a young age. So I'm bringing that personal interest back into my career with this company, the Founder Readiness Institute. And then my co-founder, Benji Whitehurst, he's a psychologist by training. He has a data science background and also an MBA. So I
Hmm.
think the combination of both of us, him having studied adult vertical development for 20 years, really is an amazing combination for solving what we are aiming to solve. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you just said you saw a lot of team dynamics. Many startups which failed say, "Oh, it was market failure. Our idea was brilliant, but the market just was ready. We were too early. It's all about the market, not about us." What's your take on that?
Yeah, I have three things to say about that. I think one is the data shows that it's not the case that it's just the market or that it's the market first. 65% of companies, according to Harvard Business Review, and that's a data set of about 14,000 companies, startups, fail because of internal dynamics. And that's,
62,
leadership,
two-thirds,
two
two-thirds.
thirds.
So,
I'll build
wow.
on that with my own data set of about 125 plus VCs and accelerators that I've spoken to personally over the course
Hmm.
of starting this company alone. And people have said as high as 83% in their portfolio. Most people guess two-thirds or above when if you just throw it out to them as a poll. We have poll data that we've shared. So yeah, that's really an interesting, I think if you crowdsource it, people kind of know that it's mostly people problems that are leading to company failures. And then, the third thing I would say is that when we're talking about um, someone saying, oh, it's the market, that certainly can be true. I mean, market timing is one important and critical ingredient, but that actually points to an interesting aspect of what we're measuring in our assessment capabilities, which is coachability and identity flexibility.
Hmm.
So when someone tends to put responsibility externally, that's actually something that relates to their ability to be coached over time. And so one of the things we're looking at is patterns in someone not necessarily taking responsibility as an individual or team for something working out. So those are kind of interesting dynamics that we tease out in our capabilities.
Excellent. And when we talk about this founder readiness, you often have people out there, especially motivational, inspirational speakers, who tell you it's all about the motivation or the right mindset you need to have. Do you think it's enough to be highly motivated, have the right mindset to succeed?
I think it's such an important ingredient, and it's something that, I have to turn to often because running a startup is a roller coaster. And I do think you have to have an aptitude and an appetite for uncertainty, and you have to have the mindset that this is going to work out because there are so many twists and turns. However, I don't think that's enough of the equation. If you think about it in sort of a weighted average sort of way, you need a number of ingredients to be a successful leader. And what we are measuring is capacity. So instead of specific skills or preferences, like are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you
Hmm.
prefer to be structured or more open about decision making? Instead of measuring those capabilities, we're looking at a person's ability to think, behave, and act under pressure with complexity over time. So I'll give you an example. If you're moving into a scenario where you have to manage a bunch of new AI tools and your leadership capacity is on the lower end of some of these constructs that we measure, you're probably going to freeze and it kind of implode and potentially burn out under that
Hmm.
pressure. And so there are ways you can improve that, but there's a baseline that we can measure in terms of your capacity to hold multiple perspectives objectively over time.
Excellent. So when you now try to audit this, what do you think is the role of AI we can probably use or implement here as maybe an audit layer or anything like that? What do you think?
Well, we think of what we're doing as kind of a people insurance layer, if you will. It's
Hmm.
like an analytical layer that's augmented by AI. And so, one of the reasons we started this company is because AI is now at the point where we've trained it according to a bunch of parameters in various psychological realms. Like, I wouldn't just go out and try to get AI to do this yourself, just kind of like, a lot of other things people are using AI for. We've trained it to look at patterns in someone's speech. It's like quantitative linguistics. And so you speak into a camera for a period of time, you answer questions. We take that transcript data and we look at patterns in how you talk about past experiences and how you talk about your team and your own individual decision making. And we can glean a lot of insight from that, but it's AI augmented.
Mm. So when you speak about this complexity and what the pressure probably on founders today will be, how do you want to prepare any leader for that? Because probably no one who starts with any kind of business is ready for what's coming up there.
Well, I think a lot of it is so think about it as an internal capabilities and an internal landscape. So there's patterns inside that you follow as an individual to make decisions or to respond to stress. And so, like anything, you can train yourself to have greater capacity. And so, in terms of specific ways to do that, that's what we're all about. We have coaching and we have training, but there's little things like people talk about breath work or taking a pause. Those pauses, in accumulation actually retrain the brain and nervous system under stressful periods. So when you're in a stress response, you're in your sympathetic nervous system. And it's really difficult to make good decisions when you're in a fight, flight, or freeze mode.
Mm.
And so even taking a little bit of space and training yourself to take a pause before reacting will train your nervous system over time to get into that parasympathetic state so that then you can actually make a better decision from your executive function, your neocortex. And I actually, I would take it as far as to say it's responsible leadership to actually do these kinds of trainings for yourself so that you're not just reacting to everything that's happening to you and making I would say inferior decisions.
Mm. Excellent. If now some people are listening here and they say, okay, maybe you know the top three mistakes that people do when they start up, probably the top three people mistakes. What would you say are the most common mistakes for people to avoid?
In terms of leadership decisions
Yeah.
in startups, well, I would start at the beginning and say, actually, I wouldn't say a lot of people who want to be CEOs necessarily are ready for that role. I think that
Hmm.
there's a lot of instances where someone has maybe a romanticized version of like what it means to lead a startup. And so um, taking an assessment like this could help kind of make you decide if you feel like you're actually ready for this from a capacity perspective. So I would say, talking to people who have done startups before, like doing your due diligence first, even before you make the decision. But I think one of the other things that I've noticed is, yeah, people are engineering their days for their version of their best self. And
Hmm.
so you want to better understand your capacity so you know, like when it's a low point, when it's a day that's not going well, how are you going to react in those situations? Like observe yourself and really try to understand like what are my trigger points and that breath work, that pregnant pause can really help you to, again, redirect your nervous system so it's not just in a reactive state. And I think another mistake people make is taking feedback as if it's a personal affront.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to be objective about feedback is one of the things that will grow your leadership capacity. Because those who are farther along in that ability, that's this identity flexibility, see patterns or see feedback as part of a system. And they're able to objectively look at the information as if it's just part of an ecosystem that they're making a decision around, not as a personal like affront.
Mm. Excellent. And when now people say, hey, I think Logan could be really for us, how can people reach out to you to wrap this interview up?
Yes, absolutely. So it's we can be reached at founderready.io, founderready.io, or you can reach out to me directly, Logan at founderrl.com, Logan at founderrl.com.
Excellent. I think these are the perfect final words. Logan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Niels.